They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sport, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Coming up on Life with Brian.
You know, we had two semi-naked ladies with whips dressed in leather.
Bob Paisley, what's Steve Highway doing? Reading a book. He says, right, give him this and tell him I want to read that. He gives him a semi-pornographic magazine to take to him.
But I've heard him say in interviews going like, when we signed Frankie, the guy who played guitar couldn't play, and he wasn't the guy who plays on all the demos, and that's a lie. And I'll meet him one day and I'll slap his coupon for it.
Hello, how are you doing? Welcome to Life with Brian, the Brian McClare podcast. Former Celtic and Manchester United goal poacher Brian McClare is in situ, of course, ably aided and abetted by Matthew Christ and myself, Mark Godfrey. How are you, fellas?
Good, thanks, Mark. You're joining us from overseas, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'm in Italy this time. I think that follows on the heels of, was it Dusseldorf once before, and then some other crazy place? Was it America, Boston, somewhere like that?
Yeah. You go to all the far-flung places and we stay here, basically.
I do, yeah. Brian, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good man. And as usual, we've got a guest. This time we have a singer-songwriter and musician who was a vital cog in one of the most successful bands of the 1980s, whose hits include Relax, Two Tribes, and Power of Love. It's a welcome to the show to Brian Nash, a.k.a. Nasher. How are you, Nasher?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, good. We're good too.
Good to see you. We're actually joining each other from about 2 miles away, aren't we?
So yeah. So, and I'll be, as soon as this is finished, I'll be heading in your direction.
I thought you might. We're trying to keep it brief.
Hey man, it's all good. It's all good.
Of course, you're a Liverpool fan. I assume you played some football as a child, or indeed
Yes,
you
I did.
went down and played football in the park.
Yeah.
When you went down to play football in the park, like nearly everybody else I've asked who did play football, who did you imagine you were going back? Probably the for you 70s, I think. Would it be 70s?
Yeah. I mean, my first hero before I really started kicking the ball was Roger Hunt. But I remember getting a Liverpool away kit and some Stevie Highway style-on matchmaker footy boots. So my first hero was Stevie Highway. But I used to, where I lived in Liverpool, in a part of Liverpool called Norris Green, that was on the route between Millwall and Anfield. So we used to spend our summer holidays waving to the coaches going past the steamy coach up, the steamed up windows of the coach, taking them back to Anfield for a shower, because they had no showers at Melwood back then. And early memories of footy was that. I think the only time I ever cried watching football was when Charlie George scored that goal in the cup final, lying on his back on the Wembley turf in the glorious sunshine. I haven't forgiven him since. But ever since then, I'm the current situation with Liverpool is quite interesting in that I see so many people, particularly at my age, getting upset about it. And it's like, shut up. You're just owed nothing. You've seen everything. No one has seen what we've seen in our lifetime. If you were born in, before Shankly came here, unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that anymore, does it? It's, no. Sack him and put Steven Gerrard in charge. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Well, I think Steve. I've met Steve Ivey a number of times because he was the academy manager at Liverpool when I was working in the academy at Manchester United. And he was a brilliant lad, and he used to cut out the Daily Telegraph crosswords. So that whenever he was away, he could sit there and then try and work out what he was doing, intelligent man, but I've always liked the story, whether it's true or not. But it's just quite a nice story about when they're on a plane somewhere, either going to a European game or come back from a European game, and he's reading a book, and Shankly said to must have seen him and said to Bob Paisley, "What's Steve Highway doing?" He says, "Oh, we'll go and check." And he's come back. He says he's reading a book. What if I'm just any kind of book? There's nobody else is reading the book. He says, "Right, I'm not sure we're happy with that. Give him this and tell him I want to read that." And he gives him a semi-pornographic magazine to take to him. This is what you should be reading, son.
Yeah, well, that was something you fell foul of, Brian, wasn't it? You were seen as somebody that would like to read a paper, do a crossword, read a book.
Well, I did do that. Yeah, I did all those kind of things. Nobody ever thrust anything other alternative.
Unfortunately for you,
reading or looking or viewing material in my way, So.
Well, you're funny you mentioned there, Brian, about Stevie Highway being perceived as being an intelligent fella, and he went to university. And this was at a time when really only intelligent people went to university. Yeah. So if someone says Stevie Highway, he went to university, he's not soft.
Yeah, well, Brian's one of that elite club.
And Coppell, that's the other one that he remembers.
Coppell,
yeah. You mentioned football there, Nasher. I always think if it was now, if Frankie were as big as they were now, and we'll go on to that, everyone would know about your football allegiance, but did you sort of kind of keep it quiet back in those days, or was it not something that anyone asked? Because it wasn't really a time when people wanted to admit to.
No, there was a bit. It was a bit. I mean, especially when we played Everton in the cup finals. But no, I think that once you get involved in music, that becomes your all-consuming passion. So I remember all of those times of being in places where you could have gone to games, but also we weren't here. We were down in London, so to get to go to the match, it was only me and Mark who were Liverpool fans, and Pez was a Blue. So we never used to go, and it was only in later years after the band split up and living down there that I started to go and watch a couple of London teams, and that was kind of a different thing then. It gave me a bit of a broader view of football, because growing up watching Liverpool, it was just trophies after trophies through the 70s, which would have been my late teenage years. But as soon as music comes along, I think it's very hard to maintain a passion for football and put all of your passion into music as well. So it kind of switched off it for a couple of years, and it's the irony being it was probably at Liverpool's most successful period, between 82 and 87, playing great football, still watching it, but the football coverage back then wasn't the same as what it is today. It's just wall to wall now, isn't it? I don't know how many games they got this season, but no, it's not. I think football now is not the game I fell in love with. But,
so it wasn't a marketing decision. You weren't told by like Trevor Horn that you don't say whether you're a red or a blue, and you.
Oh. That was the Beatles thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was the Beatles thing that nobody knew whether they were Reds or Blues. But, I think the Evertonians would have claimed that the Beatles were blue, hoping that there might be a cup for it.
Well, be careful, because we've got one on this podcast.
Yeah.
But a little birdie told me that you were actually interested in getting a ticket because the new Everton Stadium.
Yeah. Well, do you know what, Matty? Because I lived in London for 34 years, I've got no axe to grind with the Toffees, because I haven't been alongside them for all of that time. And my football allegiances when I lived in London was North v South. So if Everton, Liverpool, Man United, Leeds, any one of those teams are playing somebody from London, I want them to win, especially Arsenal and Tottenham, because I lived in North London. But I followed West Ham for the season that they nearly won the league. Yeah. But the team I've been to see most in London would have been Millwall. Yeah. So I have a soft spot for Millwall, because a mate of mine took me down there, and I went to the old Den. I went to the new Den. I've probably seen Brian play at the old Den. I think it was one of the first games I went to. which would have been it's pre-Premier League towards the end of the 80s.
I'm going to say, knowing full well, that was the 89-90 season, wasn't it, Brian?
Yeah, and no, they're a strange breed.
Yeah, you don't get many people coming out saying that Millwall are their second club, but
well, it was Millwall by association, and I've been to watch them at Wembley a couple of times when they've been in playoffs, and I went to Old Trafford when they played Sunderland. It was at Sunderland in the FA Cup semi-final, and they played United in the final and got walloped. And I was also mates with Tony Warner, who was ex-Liverpool and was at Millwall for I'd probably say the best part of his career. So yeah, I used to go and watch them. And I remember seeing Tim Cahill playing for Millwall. And when Everton signed him, Blues, who I knew, were going like, who's this lad from Millwall? And I went, you've got an absolute belter there. You could tell he was too big for that club and he was going to go on to bigger and better things, and pretty fearless. And he did it, didn't he? He did it in the Prem. He delivered in big games. Yeah. So
still a Blues legend, I'm sure you'd agree, Mark, wouldn't you?
He's a good player. He's a good player, and always he'd get you a goal. But saying that, my favourite player at Millwall at that time was Stephen Reid. Also played for the Republic, and he was a fantastic player. But again, one of these fellas who just gets beset with injuries and never seems to be able to get, string a dozen games together without breaking down. But when I was moving house recently, moving back to Liverpool, I found a signed Millwall shirt from that period, signed by all the team that had been given to me lads. Yeah, so that's a little keepsake from that time.
Brilliant.
Frankie hit the big time at a time when Liverpool and Merseyside was never far from the news for one reason or another, because there were so many great bands coming out of the city at the time. You had all the political stuff going on with Thatcher's government and militant, and of course you had Liverpool who were established as probably the best team in Europe, and then Everton was starting to come up gradually in that sort of 83, 84, 85 period. So can you? I know you said you were in London for a lot of it, but can you describe what the vibe in Liverpool was like when you guys were coming through and all that stuff was going all at once? I can imagine. I mean, Liverpool's never short of like an atmosphere and a vibe about it, but that was just this tumultuous time. And of course, was it BT called they called the documentary Two Tribes as well, using name of the song and talking about the football specifically, but also what was going in the background. You were there. What was it like?
Well, you're looking at that period. The Liverpool of today just bears no resemblance to the Liverpool of that time. And we go back to the time of under Thatcher's government of, the managed decline of Liverpool, and that quotation, "You can't make water flow uphill." And not just conservative governments. I think consecutive governments have turned their back on this city, and the fact that it survived says a lot about the people, but also about the European investment that came in with the capital culture. But you've got to remember that time in Liverpool, there was nearly 40% unemployment in the city. The city was overrun with a heroin epidemic. There wasn't a lot here. And, if you'd have gone to the trawl around the coastline of Britain in like 84, 85, you'd have come across Scousers who were, one, looking for work, but also people who were putting a couple of 100 miles between them and their environments, which sometimes contained a habit. And you need to get away from that. And these people spread far and wide. The people who were following the football team were kind of walking in the footsteps of the fellas who went before them, who travelled across Europe, following Liverpool, and it was adventures. And it was the only good thing that was going on. So, like, your key to getting out of the city and to maybe self-betterment was either through a pair of footy boots or playing a guitar. And the explosion of music that come out at that time, I think that's not a coincidence. It's the same. It's a branch of the tree that was there in the 60s, which, of course, sprouted the Beatles and all of that Mersey beat stuff. everybody was in a band back then. And it was kind of the same thing in, the early 80s. It was, it's interesting to listen to fellas who are my age talking about that time. And everybody's teenage years are fantastic, because it's your teenage years. But there's a lot of rose-tinted spectacles being worn about how great Liverpool was. And yeah, there was a few clubs and we had great times. But compared to the city now, I mean, the people have always been proud of the city. But now we've really got something to be proud about. And the visitors that come here and the tourism that comes here, as I say, you wouldn't recognise it. I love taking people around the city, especially Londoners, like lads and girls who I know come up from London. They haven't been shown the grandeur and the listed buildings and the architecture and told the stories about some of this and how the city has grown from when it was given the charter by King John in the 1200s. So it's we're kind of like a bit of a dirty secret in that, the massive port during Victorian times, I think something like 70% of the world's trade was coming through here. To go from that to absolutely nothing, and we got the fight back now. I'm about a par 5 away from the Hill Dickinson Stadium here.
Depends who's hitting the shot, Nasher.
Yeah, I can see it as I walk out of my front door every day, and that's going to be that's going to be a kickstarter for what's going to happen in the north of the city, and. Maybe it'll turn into Disneyland over the next 20 years, but I'll be dead by then. So, that's me. If it all goes over the top and becomes rubbish, I'll be drooling somewhere eating soup.
You might call it a par 5. We call it a Beto first touch.
Same, Brian, we've had a few sort of Glaswegian actors and musicians and what have you on the show, and I imagine it's a similar sort of vibe, isn't it, in the city, in that particular time as well, when you were starting off at Celtic, the link between football and music and culture in a city that was similarly struggling?
Yeah, I think you can say that about most cities in the UK at that particular time, because of the move and or the rundown of the traditional industries and people being out of work and grasping around to try to find something to do to support their families, and part of that would be going to go and watch the football, and also to be involved in music, which is or even trying to get. So the same thing, can you become a football player, or it might be a better avenue for some people to get involved in music, who had been playing. I mean, you kind of think that, you used to assume that football players and musicians just become players as soon as they become relevant to the public. But I don't know when you first started your musical journey, Brian, but I mean, I go back to when I started kicking a ball about when I was a toddler, really, and you, I'm sure, picked up a guitar or picked up some other kind of instrument that led you to the guitar, and started to enjoy it, fell in love with it, and became very proficient at it.
Well, I must have started playing when I was about 11 or 12, and that's what ignites the passion. But there was I think the thing that was really different, the thing that fired a lot of musicians from Liverpool and what followed on from the Eric's nightclub thing was that prior to that, if you were going to see bands play, they'd be playing in big theatres, and to be able to bridge that gap between where you are in the audience and being a performer seemed like a fairy tale. But going to see, bands like The Cure, Magazine, The Skids, Stiff Little Fingers, and being in a little sweaty basement on Matthew Street with 200 other kids all going mad, but these people just seemed just like us, and it made it seem like it was possible. And of course, there was a lot of the independent stuff happening in music at that time, in that independent labels, punk labels, and it was all a bit DIY. So it wasn't about going to London and getting a record deal and signing an advance for thousands of pounds and all that. It was like, oh, hey, we got a record label here. Go and record some stuff. And, oh, that's all right. Yeah, we'll put that out. So I think you are a musician. If you've got a record out, you're a musician, aren't you? That's the end of it. And I think that was the thing that it was, we could have a go here. And we did, and we were fortunate, you know, as Springsteen once said, the highway's jammed with broken heroes. And it is, there are so many that didn't make it. And unlike football, talent hasn't got a lot to do with it. If you're a talented footballer and you got this, I think you will rise to the top at some level. There is stuff that gets in the way nowadays. Players get their heads turned and all the rest of it. But being a talented musician is no guarantee that you're going to get on. You know, because it's sliding doors and it's timing and you know, coincidences, and that's the way it works, I think. I mean, do you agree with the football? I mean, that football analogy, crap footballers don't get to play for great teams. They have to have something about them that appeals to the people who are selecting them or signing them. You know, they may be cloggers, but you don't become a professional footballer and play for a good team without having the ability.
Yeah, I think there's quite a thing about ability, but that ability, and that comes from practice, Brian. You know, practice. Yeah. Whenever they started, the same thing is when you say picked up a guitar and started to play or find a way of playing and learned how to play or being inspired by various other things. What kind of intrigues me about what encouraged you? What bands were you in before? How did Frankie become Frankie? Because it seems to be, so you're all so different from different kind of, not all from the same place, but yeah, a lot of different influences to come together to create, well, an incredible period in music for yourself and the group.
Well, it goes back to a place you know well, the Bridewell, and that's where the band was formed. And back in the day, that was a rehearsal room. I think it was £2 an hour, and all the cells were rehearsal rooms. So you'd have like 4-piece bands crammed into a cell, playing their stuff, and you would have someone leave one band and go, oh, quite like I've heard what's going on down the corridor, and go and join them. So you have like this fluid membership of bands. So I'd known Mark O'Toole all my life because he's my cousin, and I'd known Ped a couple of years before that. And through other various people, I got to know Holly, and then got to know Paul much later. But it's a coincidence thing, and it's a vibe. It's oh yeah, this is good. We can do something here. And there's a little chemistry thing as well of, yeah, I quite like what they're doing, and let's get involved with them and see what we can do. But, you know, when I talk about the sliding doors and luck has everything to do with, I think, the success that Frankie had, because nobody wanted to touch us. You know, all the record labels were interested because, you know, we had 2 semi-naked ladies with whips dressed in leather. And whilst that might have appealed to people, the 2 openly gay singers did not appeal to people. So there was a lot of labels were afraid to touch it. And you got to go back to that time. Elton John was married. George was still in the closet, George Michael. Boy George was saying he'd rather have a cup of tea. So there was a very conservative times, really, compared to now, you know, where... So we got turned down by everybody, and we were really at the point of like, well, what are we going to do now? And then we get offered this one deal and the opportunity to work with Trevor Horn. And it was kind of, we had this momentum that if we lost this momentum now, then we'd never be able to get it back. And so we signed one of the worst deals in history, but we got to sign with a producer who was someone who we all liked and admired his work. And, you know, that's that coincidence and that chemistry, and that's how it works. And again, trying to get Relax up the charts, it limped up the charts. It's just a series of things that happened that put this thing into place. And the momentum starts, and and then it goes.
Yeah.
Well, before, but what was the big break? Was it the appearance on the Tube? Was that genuinely the big break? I mean,
well, the appearance on the Tube, Trevor Horn was producing 90125 for Yes, and every Friday evening they would sit down in the studio and they would watch the Tube, and Trevor had heard a John Peel session and a Kid Jensen session that we'd done, but that was the first time that he'd seen us and what we looked like, and he said that's going to be the first band on my label, and the Tube was so massively helpful in what we did. And when the record came out, again it was limping up the charts, and it was at 54, and it went down to 55, and the next stop from there is who knows where, Oblivion, and the Tube put us on, and we were doing live vocals over a backing track. And that got us to 36, which got us on top of the Pops. And after going on top of the Pops, it's at number 6 with a midweek prediction of 2. So if those things don't happen, then you're never heard of again. It's all very well having a fantastic record and something that you believe is a hit record, but trying to make that into an actual thing is not an easy thing to do. Especially signed to an independent label as well. You don't have the power and the muscle of all the bigger labels at the time.
Previously on Life with Brian.
I was like the richest babysitter in the village because Ravanelli lived next door and used to pay us in £50 notes.
And I hit one from the edge of the box and it was tipped over. And at half time, Gareth Southgate went, "Great shot from the big man." I'm taking that with me.
I think I might be one of only a few people that have hosted Soccer AM and been on Songs of Praise.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, you mentioned about Trevor Horn there. Obviously, your first 3 singles went to number 1 in the UK charts. You shifted millions of records, and you mentioned you signed a shit deal with him. And I think it's been well publicised. There was a dispute after the band broke up and everything. Has it become a bit easier over time to accept what happened and sort of let it go, or does it really still rankle with you and the rest of the guys?
No, I'm well over it. I mean, the thing is, the thing that people about the music industry and what people don't understand, that they think like, you put your records out and it goes in the shop for a £5. And you're on 10%, then when you pay that £5, a pound of that's going, or 50 pence of that's going to the band. Well, no, the 50 pence goes to paying off the band's recording costs. So by the time we split up in 1987, we still owed our record label £800,000, which we had to pay back out of about 7% overall. So we didn't make any money from record sales until 1992, until we'd recouped the 800,000 that had been spent in recording costs. And some of that was just ridiculously unnecessary. And that was Trevor, because he was the producer and the label. There was nobody going, "You're spending too much money. No, you can't do that. No, you're not doing an orchestral version of Watching the Wildlife," basically when the band split up. So there was a lot of ego flying about on his behalf and spending money that wasn't his. He knew that we'd have to pay it back. So no, we're no longer under the grip of ZTT anymore, and we're now with Universal, which is what this box set's come out as, but the first series release with them, first release that we've been involved with, and we're on better terms than we were. Probably not as good as we would like. But hey ho, we're heading in the right direction. Let's just say that.
You sound a lot more mellow than I've heard you before on previous interviews, Nasher. Though I mean, you were quite bitter about the whole Trevor Horn thing, weren't you, for a while? Or...
Well, it's just I've got a thing with Trevor Horn because I didn't get involved with this Prince's Trust thing. I think that's what it is. Either that or he smoked so much gear he can't remember. But I've heard him say in interviews going like, when we signed Frankie, the guy who played guitar couldn't play. And he wasn't the guy who played on all the demos. And that's just like, that's a lie. And I'll meet him one day and I'll slap his coupon for it. But you know, I don't get why that. And he's still doing it. Someone said it to me the other night. He's out touring doing his thing now, and he said the same thing. It's like, well, why would you say that? Why would you lie when you know it's not true? You lie because you're a narcissistic egomaniac. You know. Anyway.
That was just his style, was it? I mean, imagine it wasn't just you guys. I mean, he must have been like that to everybody that he sort of came.
Well, no, the weird thing about it is that I wouldn't claim to be Jimmy Page when we signed a record deal, but I could play, and I've been playing since I was 12. But Mark O'Toole and Peter Gill were outrageous musicians, for and I say for their age, they were 19 when we got signed, and they were unbelievable players. So, to have their musicianship slighted by this thing, it's all Trevor Horn, it wears a bit thin over time because it never gets said about anybody else. Chris Thomas produced the Sex Pistols. Chris Thomas produced the Pretenders. He was known as the fifth Pretender. No one ever goes, the Pretenders, that was all Chris Thomas. In Excess, that was all Chris Thomas. No one ever says that. So, but if you got the guy in the glasses shouting, it's all me, and we're great, and this is our label, it's kind of anyway. Yeah, I'm over it, but I'd love to front him up. He was in there. He was in New Brighton recently, and I was nearly going to buy a ticket, and get on the Q&A and just front him up in front of a few hundred people and go,
"Where's me money, Trevor?"
Yeah, why are you lying, lad?
I did see that gig build, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that would do." I was thinking you might go in the Bridewell afterwards. I think that'd be up there with Brian meeting up with Anders Limper after all these years. But I guess Brian, you thank your lucky stars that football contracts weren't like that, and you didn't have to pay all the money back. Not that you would have had to, because you were massively successful. But imagine the players that would have had to pay the money.
Scottish, you wouldn't have done anyway.
Well, I mean, he said it's a kind of revelation stuff, I mean, I was aware that all the because there's so many stories around about that time, isn't there? I mean, you've got the situation with New Order when they produced Blue Monday, because the artwork and the sleeve was so expensive, they were actually losing money.
Yeah.
Biggest selling 12-inch single of all, I assume still of all time. But they actually cost them something like 50 pence. Cost them 50 pence every time that they sold it, I think. And then obviously their venture into the Hacienda and how much money that, I mean, I saw, I was at an event with Hookie, and also it was Manny was there as well, and they were interviewing each other, and and Manny asked Hookie, well, do you kind of work out how much money it cost you over that period of time? So, that easy, 5 million.
Yeah.
Then that's just, that's 10, so.
Yeah.
Well, that would be, it's just like, and he just told some outrageous stories about what it was like when they were
It's
there,
like Monopoly money, though, isn't it? Because it's not like, it's not
it
like...
it wasn't, because they didn't have it in their hands, but...
It's just the debt.
And they get carried away with the same kind of thing with just living a great time, and living a great thing, and then eventually a bit like yourselves, all of a sudden somebody's asking you for money. You go, well, what was that about? What happened there? Because you weren't there, and you weren't in control.
So you were just mentioning Manny there, obviously, and he passed away last week, and I never got to meet, so I've never met Uki either. But the stuff I'm seeing and people talking about him just said he was just an absolute belter human, a really good guy.
Oh yeah, he was a great lad, yeah. And I don't think I've heard anybody ever saying anything negative about him,
Yeah.
Just, or a good guy who enjoyed his life and enjoyed playing his music.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go focus on a few positives, Nasher, really, because everyone always talks about the negatives of bands of a certain era. But I mean, Frankie were together, 3-4 years, incredible success, great times. I guess there must have been some real sort of pinch me moments in that time when you thought.
The negatives are that little, they're tiny in comparison to the positives. the thing, there's a thing that's when I was a 12-year-old kid, I was into Slade. I love Slade, still do love Slade. And when we eventually got onto Top of Pops, me and Mark O'Toole were upstairs in the BBC bar having a drink with Jimmy Lee and Don Powell from Slade. And if it would have all ended there after that, I'd have taken that. That would have done me, you know. That would have been like I've met two of my heroes, and to have met people like that, you know. Sitting watching a movie in a private studio in Hollywood with Gene Kelly, just mad stuff that you know. Going into your manager's offices in LA, and he says, "I'll come in. I'd like you to meet a couple of people here," and it's Gladys and Holly Knight. So it's all of these people who are like absolute heroes and proper legends, not ragasses like us. You know what I mean? These are people who are proper, endearing, enduring as well. The positives. I went round the world, mate. I went round the world. Didn't go. I haven't been to Cancun, if you count that as South America. They were still building it when I went. But no, travel broadens the mind, makes you mania, a massive experience to have as a 21, 22-year-old. Sometimes a lot to have to deal with in terms of your maturity, and you look back at it and think, well, maybe that wasn't the right decision. But you'd have people there to advise you. You know, you'd have lawyers and you'd have managers who are supposed to be doing the thinking for you. But I've got absolutely no regrets. You know, to still be sitting here now talking about it, you know, 40 odd years later, and that people are still even interested in it. And you know, with this release coming out and the pre-sale, when you think about the buckets of records we used to sell back in the day, I think they were only pressed up 6,000 copies of this box set thing, and 4,000 went in the pre-sale. So that's amazing. And I know that there are people who are collectors of this stuff and who don't want to miss out. But no, it's been very well received, and that's a good thing. You know, that it's maybe start of a new relationship with a record label, which we never had before. We'd never collaborated on, since we left ZTT. They put out compilations and all sorts of stuff that we've had no say on at all. You know, it was just like, yeah, this is it. What's this? Oh, it came out Monday. You know, another load of shit, you know, another load of scraping the bottom of the barrel. Whereas we've been involved with this in terms of the track selections and picking the music and going yes, no. And that's been quite interesting, although I probably could have done without listening to about 11 hours of Frankie. You got to. It's a job.
I just think, you know, when you say that, it's almost like if you'd known this the first time around, things might have been so much different, you know? That's the way it sounds to me. Like, you almost, if you'd had that involvement and...
I think, you know what, when you're doing it and you're in the eye of this hurricane, I say, I've used this line all the time because it describes it the best. Being in that band it was like going to a party in 1983 and coming home 4 years later, and you're in the eye of the hurricane, and you think it's going to last forever. You think this is going to be like the Rolling Stones. We're going to be doing this when, well, the Stones were probably in their 60s then. We're going to be doing this like Mick and Keith in our 60s, and that's the it's the positivity of youth, but also the immaturity and thinking like, nah, this nothing of this lasts forever. What you are here is a little brand. And the brand is 5 of these people, and as soon as something goes out of that, that's not the same brand anymore. And there's no guarantee that people are going to be interested in your brand anymore. And it was quite an intense period of time. So when it was over, it was kind of like, you know what, that was all right. And we get over it. And years after that, I had some really tough times in the late 80s. Like, I was signing on, getting housing benefits, going down. I had 2 babies, an 18-month and a baby. You know, going down Tesco's with your milk tokens. And what doesn't kill you definitely does make you stronger. I'm still here. I've still got a smile on my face, and I'm still quite positive about it because, as you answering your question, the positivity massively outweighs the negativity.
I was just going to touch on him. You obviously got together briefly for the Eurovision gig, a couple of hundred yards from where we're talking. How was it getting back together with the guys?
It happened very, very quickly. I've been getting a lot of because we don't have any management. Any proposals that come to us come through via Universal, and this thing come through. Someone at Universal said this is from the people who were doing the thing for the BBC, doing the event and filming it and staging it. And it just said, wouldn't it be great to have Frankie Goes to Hollywood doing Welcome to the Pleasure Dome to open Eurovision? And I just said no, like I do to all of these things. And then 2 days later, Ped said to me, "Oh, you don't fancy doing it?" And I went, "Well, why are you ringing me? Why?" And he said, "Because I've spoke to Mark and he fancies doing it, and so do I." And I went, "Well, if you're doing it, then I'll do it." It was one song, live vocals, and we had a party in the Bridewell afterwards, in the place where it all started. Mark O'Toole said, "I've come here to cut the head off the monster," which I think sums up how I feel about it. But if it was a movie, that's where the movie should end, shouldn't it? In the place where it all started. That's like the Shawshank moment with Andy walking across the beach. Yeah, it was. And I've got no desire to do anything after that. In the job I do now as a funeral celebrant, I'm painfully aware that we're all in the queue. And I don't know how long I've got left, but what time I've got left, I don't want to spend it doing something I don't want to do. And I knew that after we did that, the offers would come in and people throwing stupid numbers at you to do it. And it's like, I don't want to do it. Built up a career in the last 5 years doing what I'm doing now. I don't want to step away from that to go and play pop star for 5 months and having to do what I want now. I'm my own boss. I don't want to be part of this machine and having to dance around people's egos and them having to dance around mine. We've all got an ego and we've all got some skin in the game.
Do you think that's maybe because that you go back, if you're going to go back and do something like you just mentioned there, you're going back for the money, aren't you? You're doing it for the money. You're not doing it for the love of whatever else. You're not doing it for the relationships. You're doing it for the money. Do you think? And I think maybe this thing you're very interested in there is that you're relying on everybody to get on every day, and because of what happened before and what's happened in subsequent years, then there's a distinct possibility it could disintegrate at any time, and that. And
this
also
is what we're all waiting for with Oasis, isn't
it? So I'm saying, that's it. But and also the thing about that is that, and clearly, and I've seen you a couple of times doing what you do, and it's evident that you really enjoy what you're doing, right? Your tours and all that kind of thing, and you're back living in Liverpool, and you've had all those different experiences and all those things to look back on. And what happens when you get to, because we're the same age, is that you understand is that there's a big difference between what you need and what you want, and when you get to our age, it's more like, well, what do I need? And sometimes it's not that much, but because it's the pleasure of being able to do what you want to do when you wake up in the morning, you know what you're going to do, not being reliable in somebody you think, and I can imagine it would be like work then, wouldn't it? And I've never done any work because I've always been fortunate that I've had various different hobbies that I get money for. And even now when I do things, it's still a hobby, but I'm not really relying on anyone else, if I'm doing
it. You were saying there you've never worked, and I'm going to say something to you here. This is a similarity between sportsmen and musicians, and this is word association. We play for a living. So people think we don't work because we play. And I think that's really strong. And it's like, you just got to get up there and play a few songs. You just got to run around there and give your all for 90 minutes. It's not hard, is it? Just hundreds of people that give the right arm to give that opportunity. But it is about time, and time spent doing what you want to do. And in what I'm doing now, I'm part of a team. And I can't just walk away from them people. And I also absolutely love what I do. I think I'm so immersed in it. I'm so pleased to be doing it. I'm helping people. I'm getting to write about legends who leave us. And where do you want to go? And then it's like, it comes in, how much is it then? Isn't it? That's the thing. How much is it? How much is it going to take for me to go, I don't know, go and play Rock in Rio? Just can't be asked. Can't be asked. I'd rather be here, hanging out with me mates, hanging out with my grandkids, being with my family. And it's about how much money do you want? How much money do you want? I want enough to be able to do what I want to do. Well, I don't really want to do anything that outrageous, you know. My mate says to me, do you want to go to Spain next week for a couple of weeks? I've probably got the money to be able to do that. That'll do me. You know, and it's not a lack of ambition. It's just, just do what you want to do.
See, I would say that. See, Brian, I would say that's the other way around. People would look at that in a sense, and again, it's to do with the money, and again with the perceived idea of what it is. So you're going to play, right? So you're going to go and play in these things, but they don't understand is that every day you might wake up every day being anxious about what you're having to do the rest of that day. Get on with people that you don't really get on with. You got to go and spend it, and it's the same a lot. And you're choosing to do that. And then you've probably got that fear all the time. It could implode at any point. It could implode in the middle of the massive stage in Rio, you know. And where does that leave? How am I getting home? All of a sudden, am I going to get another bill for X amount of thousands of pounds, you know, because you've agreed to sign up for a certain amount of things, you know? There's a slight difference between the Oasis and you lot is that there's only two of them, you know, so there's only one relationship. Whereas all of you being back together, there's several different facets of the relationships about do with this, do with this, do with that, you know? And if you don't enjoy it, I mean, it's the same thing then. Anything I'm choosing to do a few Q&As and different things. And I don't really like it because when I do a lot of them, it's because I'm trying to do it for, I think it's a reasonable cause for some people.
Yeah.
But I'm not particularly enjoying it. I enjoy the fact that people are enjoying it. If somebody laughs at a story, you telling stories when you're wandering around Liverpool. It's a great joy in what you do. And it's the whole thing about being the understanding of really about yourself, isn't it? And you've had all those things because you had those difficult moments where you went riding on the crest of a wave to nothing.
Yeah.
And, you know, having to go, being on the dole and then having to do what you had to do is a great reference point for you to go, well, actually, you know, well, as much as that'd be nice, how much would that take away from the pleasure of you spending hours with your grandkids, you know?
Yeah. What you were saying then about it going off, we did the last tour in March 87, from February, March 87, and we went speaking to Holly. So whilst we got on there and we did a professional job, that's not a very nice thing to be, you know, that's like going to work. And what you were saying there about doing the Q&As and stuff, it depends what's in your heart. And when I do the tours, I know that I've just been doing these tours around Liverpool for nothing, for years. It's not about that. It's about being proud of the city and proud of where I'm come from and to give people a real positive spin on Liverpool. But the other thing as well is how often do you get a chance to absolutely make somebody's day? And how good is that? How fulfilling is that for me to know that someone's come along and done this tour and gone, you know what? That was absolutely brilliant. On one of the tours, an example of that, on one of the tours we'd finished and sitting in Rigby's, and this woman had been on the tour, and she said, I want to show you something. So you've got some pictures out of her handbag, and it was her and three of her mates, and they were all wearing their own homemade Frankie Say t-shirts. And she said, these are my girls, and we're still tight. This was all of us when we were 15 and 16. And she said, when I was 15 years old, my father committed suicide. And without these girls and Frankie, I wouldn't have got through it. And it's like, so she's made up. She's made up to be able to sit next to me, telling me that. And you know what? I'm just as made up to hear that, because that goes beyond record sales. That's and headlines and interviews. That's first person testimony of somebody going, it was brilliant, and it was such an exciting time in my life. And you can't put a price tag on that. That's not an experience you can buy, is it? It was, and that's what I think. Taking these people around, I'm just an ordinary fella. I've got nothing about me. I've got no airs and graces. I'll take you around my city, and we'll have a good time. We'll have a few beers, and you can ask me what you want, and as long as your phone's not on, as long as your phone's not recording.
For anyone that doesn't know, Nash, you're a celebrant, and you do funerals and baby namings, one of which I've been to, and I just wonder, how does that link in with the storytelling nature of writing songs and doing what you did in the band? Is it there is a similarity there, even though people might say,
absolutely spot on, Matt. It ticks a writing box, but it also ticks a performance box, because that's what you're doing is a performance. And but I don't know whether it's I think when we're younger men and women, we don't have the same perspective of history because we haven't got enough of it under our belt. But I think when I turned 50, there was a thing that happened in me that I'm definitely nearer the front of the queue than I am the back. So when you're at 60, you are definitely nearer the front of the queue. So you start looking over your shoulder. So these people who I'm doing funerals for now were people who'd done their courting in the cavern when the Beatles were on, and people before that surviving, who were 9 and 10 when the war started, evacuation stories. And what an honour to have the last word. But it's also that thing of going to see a family. I always say to people that if you're very lucky, you'll only ever have to do one funeral in your life, and that will be the funeral of your surviving parent. And I know that when I go into people's houses, they don't know who's coming through the door. I think sometimes they know that I used to be in this band, but sometimes they don't, and I just turn up. And I know that in an hour's time, when I've left them, they're going to feel a whole lot better. They'll be going, that's good. We know what's going to happen now. And yeah, we got faith in him to deliver what he said he was going to do. And it's amazing. I did one today, my 578th funeral this morning, for another legend, Yeah. Going back to Liverpool, no employment in Liverpool in 1988, ended up going to work in a hospital in Guildford, commuting home to see his family, and ended up doing nearly 20 years there. These stories, they're important.
You see the joy in it then, because some people would see it as quite a depressing thing, but from having listened to you, and I've spoken to you about it briefly before, you see it as a massive positive, don't you?
It's a celebration of life. It's not a funeral. Yeah. Funerals are what priests do. If you have a funeral, you have a funeral in a Catholic church in this country, you're having the same funeral as the fella in Rio de Janeiro or Sydney. It's just the name's changed. If I do your funeral, it's a celebration of life. I mean, it's about the person who's in there, and that's what we will talk about. And I just love it. I think, and the humour, and to be able to represent people and inject humour into what we're talking about, and it should be a laughter. The time for tears is when it happens. But I think afterwards, it should always be about smiles. It should always. Everybody wants to be remembered with smiles. Nobody wants, if somebody checks out here, they don't want the people behind who've been left behind crying their eyes out. I mean, I found out just over 24 hours ago, I lost a mate of mine, a guy who's played on loads of my music, known him 30 years, and unexpectedly died. And today I messaged his wife to say, I want to do his funeral. And you know what it makes me feel like when I do this? You were all very familiar with bed knobs and broomsticks and the vultures in the footy match who were sitting there waiting for someone to get crunched, and they come on and they spring back to life and they turn around and go off. Like the Beatles, they all got the vultures with Beatles haircuts. And that's what I feel. It feels like, and it feels like you're touting for business to say, I want to do this. but it's not. It's one, because I want to help you, and two, I want to represent my mate, and I know how he would want to be represented, because he was just a giant human being. Yeah. So onwards, and I think, but if I can do it, I think when I get to 1,000 funerals, I might write a book, because there is definitely a book in it. There's the stories and the things I've heard people say, from the hilarious to the absolutely heart-wrenching. And I think those words, and these words are not coming from scholars or priests or learned men or women. They're just coming from people like us who open their heart and put it onto a page. And if they don't read it themselves, then I get the honour of doing that. And that's just unreal. It's unreal. I'll take in any bookings now.
well, let's not hope you got to do any just yet. Slight change of gear. I just wanted to ask you this. We're getting to that stage. This is probably going to be our Christmas edition. So you had a big hand in writing a song which has sort of become synonymous with Christmas now, and we're not talking financial and Trevor Horn or anything like that. When you wrote that song, did you think that all this time on that Power of Love would be a Christmas hit?
No, I mean, when I say I wrote the song, I co-wrote the music with Mark and Ped, and Holly wrote the lyrics. So it was a combined effort. But no, the fact that it's still being played now. I was talking to someone recently about, do you remember How Long? That song, How Long?
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the song How Long, but nobody remembers that it was by a band called Ace. And I know it because my mate was the guitar player. So when I mentioned that, have you ever heard of Ace? And people go, no. And you go, you know that How Long? Oh, yeah, I know that. So Frankie are like that now. To the generations in the 20s now. They go like, have you heard of Frankie Goes To Hollywood? And they go, no. So you heard that song, The Power of Love? Oh, yeah, I know that one. Yeah. So the name's gone, but the song still plays. And I've had it a couple of times at funerals, but not as many as Jennifer Rush. I've had the Power of Love, Jennifer Rush one loads of times, because I'm your lady and you are my man. It's a beautiful love song, isn't it, to say goodbye to someone. But no, it's great. It's great that it still gets played. One of the best memories I have of hearing it around the festive period was when I was living in North London. I was pushing a trolley through Sainsbury's, and there was a lady coming towards me the other way with a baby in the trolley, and it was playing in the shop, and she was, judging by the way she was dressed, I don't know whether she looked Eastern European. It was like really snide boots and a silver parker and quite and she was singing the song to the baby the toddler in the cart. That's brilliant. And when you hear it, and the fact that it still gets used, and I think around this time last year they were using it in a Walker Crisps commercial. But when things like that happen, we don't get asked. It just goes. If it's an original version of the song, then we don't have any say in it, unless it was being used for something that was quite controversial. But no, it's great that it still gets played, and I play it because it's probably the only Frankie tune I can play on acoustic guitar on my own. So, after people have been subjected to about an hour of my miserablest middle-aged moaning ass tunes, it'll give them something to end the night on. It'll be, thank you for your patience. Here's one, it's kind of that bad. But no, it's you'd never have thought that, and I think it will still be getting played. I mean, because we're all trapped into those cycles of radio now, and until we're all dead, there still will be 70s radio and 80s radio. Mm-hmm. Although the time I spend listening to a lot of that now, there's definitely not enough Frankie in it. I need to get someone from Universal in a headlock. Hey, I'm here dancing on the ceiling every 5 minutes. Yeah, and when the going gets tough, yeah, you can't escape it.
You're listening to Life with Brian.
there is zero communication between us about anything else in our lives. I don't know where he lives. I don't know what he does. I don't know anything about his family. It's the same about me. It's the secret of a happy marriage.
Obviously now I'm ginger and beautiful and unique, Brian, but back then you thought you were just a wee ginger ball bag from the west coast of Scotland, you know.
A lot of my memories, the really good ones, have been populated and polluted with your image in shorts, Brian.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
It's time for the quiz, and it's less about two tribes going to war and more about Chucky being told to relax when he starts accusing us of trying to trip him up. We've called this one Make Love Your Goal, in honour of the famous line at the end of the chorus of Power of Love. We're giving you 5 alternate questions in a penalty shootout format, and you have to tell us which of these people with the surname Love are footballers and which are imposters. So if you think they're a football player, say Frankie. And if you think they aren't, please say Skanky. Both understand the rules?
Yeah, go on.
And before we go any further, Brian, this is a Mark quiz, and it's certainly not.
I can't believe we're a team.
Oh,
I can't believe you're Judas.
Well, you last time you accused me of foul play. Not on this occasion, not yet anyway. So go on, Mark, you go with the first one.
Yeah, Nasher, you're our guest, so you get the honour of going first. And it's Donald Love.
Skanky.
Oh dear.
Uh-oh. No, Donald Love is a Frankie. It's true. Yes, Donald is a defender and former Manchester United Academy graduate. One of yours, Brian?
Yeah, Scottish boy.
All right.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
currently
except
at
he wasn't born in
Accrington.
Scotland.
Yeah. Currently at Accrington Stanley, having previously had spells with Sunderland, Shrewsbury, Salford and Morecambe. So, Brian, Chucky, you've got the chance to go one up.
Okay. Chucky, you get your shootout underway with Aryan Love.
Say that again. Aryan.
Am I saying that right, Mark?
Yep, Aryan Love.
Aryan Love.
Skanky.
Skanky is correct. It's false. You don't know who that is, Nasher, do you? No. Okay, well, Aryan Love.
Should I?
Well, I'm wondering because I'm looking at the answer. Aryan Love, it's not a Nazi romance novel. It's a member of 70s soul band, The Stylistics. Who's,
okay.
yeah,
Stylistics.
so you don't need me to remind you of those hits, do you? They're probably playing on that same radio station that you were listening to with.
Yeah. No, I loved. Yeah. Bet you by golly, wow.
Yeah, exactly what I've got written here. So you both missed your first one, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. 0-0.
Yeah.
Okay, penalty
Hold on a
number 2.
minute.
No, Mark.
No,
No.
Brian's one up.
Brian's one.
One up, yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Goodness sake.
Getting too excited.
don't do
What are you
that.
about? Excited. I've got the right answer, but I'm not getting allowed there. Good.
No, 1-0, Brian.
Yeah, penalty number 2 for you, Nasher, is Horatio Beaver Love.
Oh, it's gotta be Skanky.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too obvious, but a great name, but not a footballer. He was a 19th century portrait painter who was part of the Norwich School of Painters. I think we all knew that one. Chucky.
1-1, but McClare goes next. Chucky, your second spot kick is Willie Love.
William Love.
Well, Willie Love, I prefer to call it.
Frankie.
No, you definitely missed this one. Skanky's false. Not a player, but an American Delta blues pianist. I suppose you could say the song Relax is about Willie Love, couldn't you?
Yeah. Probably say whatever you like. I didn't like the words. I have to ask the author. Get myself into trouble.
Okay, Nasher, your turn again. This time, yours is Ted Love.
Frankie.
Yes, it is Frankie. It's true. Ted Love, real name Eduardo dos Santos Souza, is a 5'6" Brazilian forward who's had around 20 lower league clubs. He acquired his nickname from a former manager due to his frequent changing of girlfriends.
So what's the score, please, on the doors?
2-1 to Nasher.
Okay. Brian, third penalty is Ian Love.
Skanky.
Oh dear, trying to miss this one as well. It's Frankie. It's true. Ian was a striker in Welsh football during the 1980s, having spells at Barry Town, Swansea City and Cardiff City.
Yeah, I remember his name. I remember because I got mates who were Swans fans and Cardiff fans.
Well, I'm sure Mark deliberately didn't give you that one for that reason, didn't you?
No, these are just all at random.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Nasher, you're up again, and your fourth attempt is Wagner Love.
Yeah, Frankie.
Yeah.
No,
you were right. No, I've got to accept your first answer, and Wagner Love is a player. You're right. And a player of some renown. The flamboyant striker trotted the globe, but was particularly successful in his time at CSKA Moscow and Flamengo, and won a very respectable 20 caps for Brazil in the 2000s. So I think that's put you 4-1 up.
Ryan, you're going to get beaten again, but we're going to play on regardless. And your penultimate penalty.
Well, mates, what question's this now? What are we up to now? Is this 5 now?
This is number 4.
Or was it 3-1? I don't know.
3-1.
Yeah, that was the first one. 3-1, yeah.
Good job we got a maths student in the house. Your penultimate penalty is Joanne Love.
Skanky.
No, he's done you this time, I'm afraid. Mark, it takes full responsibility for this. It's Frankie. Joanne is a Scotland ladies international midfielder currently playing at Partick Thistle, having previously won multiple titles as part of the very successful Glasgow City side. Look at the face.
Look
at the face.
Look at his face.
It's irrelevant.
Beat Brian, that's the thing.
Yeah, there's nothing on this, but we're going to do these last two anyway. Nasher, your fifth and final go is Gerard Love.
Skanky.
It is Skanky. And I'm sure if you didn't get this, Brian would. Gerard Love is the former bassist, vocalist, and founder member of Scottish indie legends Teenage Fan Club. That's right.
Oh, they love the fannies, man. Yeah.
Oh, well, Brian.
Well, the group.
Come on, let's get this done with.
Skanky.
Yeah. He scored, and it was Kermit Love, believe it or not. And you've gone Skanky, and it was false. And he wasn't a footballer, an American puppeteer, costume designer and actor. Most famous work came as designer and builder on the Muppets. Although, contrary to popular rumour, he's not the inspiration for Kermit the Frog. Yeah, so, I mean, poor old Mark put his back into this quiz, and now Brian's just
shutting his eyes and shooting. Yeah. Anyway, you deserve to lose.
That's what we're doing for the last 70 episodes.
And for most of his career as well.
Nasher, we always finish up with our Focus On feature, which is a nod to the old player profiles you'd find in Shoot magazine of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
We're going to pose you a few quick fire questions to you before you go, just to squeeze the last drop of info from you.
Yeah.
This time, we found the Focus On interview of then Nottingham Forest striker Trevor Christie, because this was the interview in Shoot magazine from the week of the 1st of December 1984, when The Power of Love hit #1 in the UK charts. I'll also reveal some of Trevor's answers along the way. So, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Your full name?
Brian Philip Nash.
And your birthplace and date?
20th of May, 1963, the People's Republic of Liverpool.
And height?
5'10".
And teams you supported as a boy?
Liverpool. Only Liverpool.
Yeah, well, Trevor Christie was from the Northeast. He said Newcastle United, and he also dropped in there that he was a fan of the mighty Blythe Spartans, my local club. Your most memorable match?
Oh, European Cup final. Kenny jumping over the barrier after scoring. They get 1-0 against Bruges.
78.
Yeah, the stadium was shaking. I thought it was going to collapse. So, euphoric but terrified.
Superstitions?
Have I got any superstitions? I don't think I have, No.
Yeah.
No, I put a pair of shoes on a table this morning. Probably getting run over when I go out.
Trevor Christie's was that he usually shook hands with the rest of his team before he went out. Hobbies?
Hobbies? God, what are my hobbies? I'm not sure that it's playing the guitar these days. Actually, playing the guitars is a bit of a hobby. No, I don't. Oh, flying me drone. I bought a drone, and because I live close to the River Mersey, I've been flying my drone over the Mersey, filming the big ships coming in and out, and the cruise ships.
Oh,
yeah,
brilliant.
That's my hobby.
Yeah. Trevor Christie's were going to the horse races and watching his son grow up. I'm hoping that the two things weren't done at the same time. Your favourite TV shows?
Favourite TV shows? Oh, God. Porridge, Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm. But given we're going back in time, I'd say Porridge. When it comes across on my TV, I can't not watch it. I have to stop. If I'm flicking, it's Porridge.
On the 1st of December 1984, Trevor Christie's answers were Shine On Harvey Moon and the ever-brilliant Auf Wiedersehen Pet. Your favourite musicians?
Oh, God. Too many. Paul Buchanan of the Blue Nile. I love the Blue Nile. Scotland's finest, of course. Stevie Ray Vaughan, no longer with us. Prince, no longer with us. Yeah. Stop killing my heroes.
And Trevor Christie's answers were Billy Joel, Dire Straits, with another Blythe connection there. The Knopflers grew up in Blythe after being born in Glasgow, and Brian Ferry. And if you think back, and this was Trevor Christie's question at the time, ambitions for 1984-85.
Can we insert ours?
But my ambitions for 84-85 would have been a fourth number one, I think. And we stalled at number two. Pleasure Dome was released and got to number two. So I think that's what the ambitions would have been. And probably to go and travel and see a few more countries.
Yeah. And Trevor Christie's answer was to win as much as possible with Forest. Obviously, that didn't go so well. Okay, so that's it. That's us done. We've struck the final chord of this episode, and all that's left to do is say thanks to Brian Nash for joining us. It's been brilliant, Nasher. Thank you very much for coming on.
No, thank you, mate. It's been great, interesting.
Thanks, Nasher.
By the way, good luck with the Welcome to the Pleasure Dome Blu-ray box set. Tell us sort of briefly what's included, what they're going to get, and obviously where they can get their hands on it.
It's here, look. It came through the other day. It was sent to an old address where I was living on the other side of the dock, and whoever took delivery of it nicked it. So it's in the shops, and I only got mine yesterday. 33 previously unreleased tracks. All the John Peel sessions, both the John Peel sessions and the Kid Jensen sessions. Some very early demos for other record companies. Steve Wilson, who is the Atmos and 5.1 master, he's done a reimagining of the Pleasure Dome album. The only thing I can say, it seems to have been very well received by all of the Frankie lunatics who are legion and are still out there and still buying it. So long may that continue. And I think the record company being very pleased with the success and how it's gone. So they're talking about maybe doing one for the Liverpool album, which will be nice.
And the perfect Christmas present for anybody listening to this show before the big day, I'm guessing.
Bit pricey, Matty. Bit pricey. I think it might even be sold out. Yeah, get a voucher.
Yeah. Frankie says buy it, right?
Yeah.
Chucky and Matthew, thanks as ever, lads.
No, thank you, everybody. And Nasher, thanks. It's been great having you on.
Hey, mate, thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure. And
thank you, sir.
Yeah, good to talk to Chocrates. I love that, man. I love that. I'm going to leave you with a recommendation, given the love of football between us all. And I don't know whether you will have seen it. And it was hearing the name Wagner Love made me think of it, and him being a Brazilian international, because he may have been around the same time. There's a movie called Kaiser. Have you heard of this film?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No.
I haven't seen it, but I think I know what it's about.
A fellow who played for about 19 different clubs in Brazil and never kicked a ball.
Yeah, he was an imposter, wasn't he?
He was a complete blagger. Yeah. It's how it never... how it's not around to be seen is unbelievable. Fantastic film. Yeah, so if it ever comes across your way, get involved.
For that, yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks as always goes to you out there for listening and support us again through another year of this. Keep subscribing in 2026 when this podcast turns 5 years old. Who'd have thought it, eh? Follow us on X and Blue Sky at Brian McClare Pod and Instagram at Life with Brian Pod. And the three of us hope you have a great Christmas and New Year. So until next time, take care.
Life with Brian. Life with Brian. Talking films or music. Life with Brian. Talking TV and food. Life with Brian. Talking trivia and exercise. Life with Brian. It's different every episode. Life with Brian. Talking politics and football. Life with Brian. It's different every episode. Life with Brian. Life with Brian.